Hello and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. And if this is your first time seeing this, this is a YouTube page where I do a whole bunch of watercolors, oil paintings, ink sketches, and whatnot. I just got done filming a time-lapse of a study sketch of Herman Fuechsel's Fuechsel, of a painting that he did called Cows in the Hudson River. This was 1875. So I've been looking at the different landscape masters from the 1800s, the Hudson River Valley painters and the tonalists. And today when I woke up, I was like, all right, I got to start the day off with a sketch, with a study. So I flipped through this book, Different Views in Hudson River School Painting. This is a fantastic, amazing book. And it talks about the Hudson River Valley, the school. It shows paintings from different painters of the same view during that time period. It shows paintings that painters did in the morning of a scene, in the afternoon of a scene, in the summer of a scene, winter of the scene. It just showed all these different things from that area, and comparison, contrast, and whatnot. Also talked about different aspects within the paintings. So when I was flipping through, I think that this was in a time of day section, and this was late morning. So I pulled this painting up on my Kindle, and set it up and set to sketching it. And I figured I'd talk about it a little bit, and what I'm seeing and what I'm learning from studying these painters. Now, this might not be the best critique or accurate representation, but this is what's going on in my mind. This is what I was looking at when I was sketching, and things that were coming alive to me, and things that I thought, how can I translate this over to watercolors, and then eventually the oil paintings. So overall, with this, I gravitate towards the Hudson River Valley School. I grew up in the New York area, and a lot of these paintings are of regions from there, but back in the 1800s. I'm also really drawn to the vast landscapes that take place. As you can see here, we have the water, the Hudson River Valley. We have land. Further back, there's a far bank, and we have mountains. So those big expanses, I want to somehow incorporate that into my paintings. Now, living down in Louisiana, I try to avoid mountains at this point with my paintings due to, it's just something that I don't see that often here. But for me, far backgrounds could be tree lines and whatnot. So just looking at his aspect there, it's blued, it's grayed down, it helps it recede. When I was looking at the sky, I noticed, and it's not going to show up probably on this Kindle through filming. However, what I had noticed is there was a lot of brushstrokes visible within this painting. And I was always under the impression that the Hudson River Valley School, the brushstrokes were hidden. And then when it moved over into kind of tonalist movement, brushstrokes were being shown, and then it hit more tonalist expressionism, even more brushstrokes and whatnot, and just feeling. And this was 1875, which is around the time George Inez was painting, and I think the Barbizon, I'm not good at pronouncing, the French school that tonalism was influenced by. It seems to be all around that time period. So it was very interesting to look at a Hudson River Valley painting and see those textures there. So this might be representative of a transitional period that was taking place. I'll need to research him more and see his later life stuff. This guy, I believe he lived into the early 1900s. And if I flip open my book just to reference it, and by the way, I highly recommend getting this book that I'm talking about. This gentleman was born in 1833 and he lived to 1915. And the tonalist movement was the 1880s, give or take, to 1920s. So I think it influenced it. All right, next is the cows themselves. Within the Hudson River Valley School, they're saying that houses, cows, things like that show signs of domestication within a landscape. So it was telling a little bit of a story that was taking place. So there was given the idea of this area being domesticated. Compositionally, my eye was drawn to I think 3 spots, let's say. The cows. So I'm trying to incorporate cows and whatnot into my own paintings and figuring them out. With sketching, I seem to have to do them first, especially with fountain pen ink, because there's no erasing that takes place. I'm drawn to the trees, and I've been working on my modeling of my trees after what I've been seeing with the masters. Here, if I was to paint that, that'd be kind of raw sienna and the light red or Venetian red. But I'm not sure what his palette consisted of. Another spot my eye was drawn to that I felt was very important was this area back in here. It shows that we go back, we have that little itty bitty gap. And that shows that there's a whole bunch of water passing back behind. It happens back here too, so there might be an inlet on that side. And it just adds to the expansiveness. Other 2 things is, here we have a tree mass, here we have a tree mass. Those are used to stop the eye from going off the page. So I believe those were situated purposefully. Let's see what else popped out at me. I have been really enjoying the far background and how you could see it through tree lines and whatnot. Yesterday I had done a sketch of Thomas Moran's Long Island watermill or windmill or something like that. And my mother saw it and she's like, I don't see the windmill in it. And with these, it seems like buildings and whatnot are usually very small and set and hidden in the landscape. I'm kind of embarrassed to say it took me a little while to see this house right back here. It took me quite a while to see this cow right back here. So there's a lot of stuff going on within these paintings, a lot of stories taking place. So that's what I saw with this. There's that common theme of that white along the horizon of the water. I'm not sure if that's because the light's coming from this direction and there's an opening back there. That's probably the case because we have this shadow that happens right here. Okay, now let's flip over to my sketch and I'll talk about what I did. So first off, whenever I do this, I lay a mat over it and then I tape a border around it so I have a gap for me to write who it's after and the name of the painting. I forgot to put my quotation marks at the top. So let me do that real quick. Then I do like to just toss my name on here. So I'm not trying to take credit for the artwork or anything like that for this painter. I just, every one I'm trying to have a gap right there so I can have that. And I think it's interesting, a black mat with a natural border taking place. So it's kind of almost like a double mat type thing, where it just helps it sit within the mat. So that's something new I've been doing. If you watch the time lapse, you'll see that I take this pen and I kind of dot in locations. The original one I believe was wider, so I had to shrink down in this direction and add a little bit more sky to help everything fit. Mainly put the cows in first. Like I said, I feel like I need to model those guys before I start doing anything else. I felt that these trees were very light and airy, so I did a lot of stippling with those. And in areas where I wanted darker, I not only did my hook marks, but I did a concentration of hook marks, and also did a concentration of hash marks, or kind of contouring, like I had done back in this far mountain. So I tried to keep that key point right here. I talked about that in the other painting. Same here, to kind of give the illusion of passing back. I put in that little building. Once again, I think it's quite hard to see, and that just might be my skill level with this, where I'm not super proficient yet. I modeled in a little bit of sky just to have that in there, and that was just kind of hash marks in that direction. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Like I said, I really like these two end markers. I really liked how this traveled all the way through the mountain. And then near the very end, I liked how this tree line, even though I believe this tree line back here is separate on this closer landmass, I like how it had that theme all throughout. So it had at that horizon spot, a tone that took place. And that pattern was broken up by this foreground, and then by these trees over it, and by those trees over it. So overall, takeaway, I may try to model some cows in a watercolor painting. I'm going to have to do a little bit of pen work, or brush work on a separate piece of paper, just to get the ideas down. The layered background to give vastness, seeing that background through the trees, it really just helps create that big scene. I think that's enough of me blabbing about this. If you didn't watch the time lapse, go back, check it out, and you know, eventually I had my time lapse going, and I was listening to the band Chicago. And if you eventually want me to film just full length where I'm talking through these, and they're in regular motion, not time lapse or slow motion or anything, just let me know, and I'll make an effort to do a sketch in real time and talk it out and say what I'm doing. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. I'm going to sign off, and I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.